If you want to find out how to add a second battery to your DX5Pro, stick around. So I have my DX5Pro here, and what I want to do is upgrade the battery capacity. I'm going to add a second battery so that it'll get me double the amount, another 20 amp hour, whatever you say, battery. So my plan is to disassemble this guy to wire in the new battery dual discharger, and we'll wire in the new battery to be down below. The main problem that I found is trying to find a battery pack that will actually fit in here. It's not very long, and most of the battery packs that you can buy, like off of Amazon, for example, are gonna be the hard case model, and they're too long to actually fit in here normally. And there's not a lot of other good places to mount the battery. So what I had to do was just get the battery pack itself without the hard case. So I've got a soft case that I'm going to put around it and mount down to the bottom here. And as you can see, I've already added some modifications here. I took off the little side metal thing to make getting a bag in and out easier. So a little metal thing on this side. I removed one on one side and then got this guy, just zip tied it in. Makes it a lot easier to get stuff in and out so you can get larger bags in there. Same thing with groceries. That was the one hard thing, is like you'd have to squeeze it through this area and then into here, and then also is open up top. So anyway, quick, easy, costs like 10 bucks. You get a couple of carabiners just to clip it here, and then you just zip tie it into the rest of the frame and it's good to go. So I don't actually know if all the parts that I got are gonna work. So I'm gonna start with doing a disassembly of this, so at least you'll have that content. And then from there, I'm going to try and get the actual stuff all rewired. I'm also going to add a multimeter for both batteries. So I'm gonna try and add 2 multimeters. I don't know how. I'm gonna try and cut this top here, this part, and see if I can fit it in the top. It's a little iffy if this is gonna work or not, but if this goes well, I'll have 2 multimeter readouts to get the exact voltage of each battery independently, so that I can actually get a better sense of my battery usage. Because right now you just have these 4 bars and you're really just like guessing where the voltage is at. So I'm gonna have the multimeters on top, so that'll kind of tell me where I'm at, also with a kill switch so I can turn off the extra battery down here, and the extra battery will be just removable. I'm gonna get started and kind of montage my way through disassembling and explaining it. Okay, I'm gonna guess that this was the part of the video that you were skipping ahead to get to figure out how to get these side pieces off. I don't blame you. All right, so the deal is there are 3 clips in here, and as soon as you clip them, it sounds like you actually broke something, but this is like the second time I've taken this thing apart and it's fine. So it's kind of tricky to find them at first. What I recommend is kind of looking for this one on the end, and you can kind of, well, can't really feel it, but you can peek back here and you can see the first one sticking out right about here. So the clips themselves, you're like pushing like right here towards the back of this red part right here. They're just like slightly recessed in. So the clips like aren't on the edge of the silver piece. They're more towards this like center of the, or back a little bit on the red piece. So I got it. Did I get that one? Yeah, that feels... All right, well, that one's good. Didn't get a click out of that, that's fine. And here's my next one. Yeah, see what I mean about that clicking noise? Sounds like you broke it, but no. So again, you can see these clips right on here. These just go right up and over, and there's these little push tabs right here. You just gotta get them to push up. And then you've got this side, you got some more bolts. And you know, put these somewhere. Also, these plastics, these like scratch super easy, like for like no reason. So put them somewhere safe. Okay, day 2. I got a few things figured out. First off, the gauges on the meter. So what I did so far is I've got it hooked up. So these little guys, I'll leave a link in the comments to the exact type that I used. They're actually working out really well. I configured the first one. I'm configuring the second one right now for the second battery. But basically what I have before I install it, I need to configure it and adjust the multimeter setting so that it's accurate. So what I did is I have a temporary hookup for the cable here to go to the X60 connector that goes down to the battery, and I currently have it switched off. I'm going to switch it on right now. And so it starts up, and right now I already tweaked this one. So that actually reads 57.4. And I know that that is the accurate value because I took a reading with the multimeter first. So don't trust what this value is. It was off. It said it was like 58 something volts. Take a multimeter, get that value and match this one. And all you have to do is you remove this little white plug on the back here, and there's just a little screw in here. It's a potentiometer. You tweak it until it matches the exact one. It doesn't take much, just a little screw back and forth until the numbers match with what your multimeter reads. That'll give you an accurate readout on your battery, which is very important. The other thing you can do, so you can go through here. You can get the exact percentage, but I still prefer the value of it. The other thing that I really liked about this is you can hold it and you can configure the low range. So by default, this is like for a normal like 12 volt car battery or golf cart battery. But what you can do is you can hold this in this little menu, and now you can select, and our low voltage cutoff is actually going to be 42 volts for a, hold it and go to the next number. So it'd be 42 volts for this type of battery that we have. That is the like 0 out of battery. And that's what this setting is supposed to be according to the instructions. You could tweak this up to like, I don't know, a little bit higher to make sure that you stay well within the safety range. But 42 volts is like 0 battery left. Okay, like dangerous, shouldn't actually be down there. You shouldn't actually like drop realistically. You should try and stay above 45 volts because that's like 10 or 20% battery still. If you go any lower, you really risk damaging your battery a lot. So I'm gonna tweak this to 42 volts because I also know I'm getting the exact data readout, so I know when I should like, oh, I'm at 45, I should just stop. So the readout of 0 to 100% is technically 100% like accurate, but really you might want to bump this up a little bit higher just to make sure if someone else is writing this and doesn't understand what they're doing, they don't kill a battery. Okay, so 42 volts, that's going to be our 0 value. So it blinks over there red, and I'm going to hold again. Cool, and now we're moving on to the high with the 100% value, which should be 58.8 volts. So I'm going to hold to tweak this, move this from a 1 to a 5, hold. Then we're going to go to an 8 and hold. 0.8, and I'm going to double check myself because why not? The high end 58.8 output. That is the voltage you want to be at to be 100%. 58.8. I'm going to hold. Boom, and that is done. So, and now it's already starting to give me a fairly accurate readout. It's already lost 1 bar because it's at 57 volts. That's kind of what I expect. And then let's do a percentage. If you hold it 90%, that's accurate. That's pretty much right where it should be as far as the readout goes. So you can just tap this one to get a voltage or to go percentage. So you go back and forth depending on which one you like. So that this one is all configured and ready to go. So I'm going to shut off the battery here to kill it. And disconnect. So what I just had this laying around. I do a lot of drone stuff. So I've got all sorts of like XT60 connectors and XT30s laying around. So this I just happen to have. Now you probably won't. Again, you got to hook it up to the battery so that you can configure it. And that was literally all the configuration I did on this one. I've already done it on the second one and mounted it to its new permanent spot. These guys just like screw it off so I could tweak the end of this cable. Very straightforward. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna actually solder these into one of the battery connectors to make them removable. I'll show you that later. That's gonna be a little bit further down the road. Let's put this aside for right now. Let me show you how I got how I'm mounting these readouts onto the bike itself. Okay, so check it. This is what I've got. I've got this one fully mounted here. Now this is the gas cap. It just screws right off. There's 2 screws in the back. I've gone ahead and I drilled and then cut the sides. Use a drill bit on this. Start with a small one and then just work up slowly, kind of gauging it larger and larger until your cable can fit through here. And then you do it the same thing to the cap and it fits right over. It's gonna look just like that. And the second one's gonna mount right here. Now, when I drilled these, I started from the back side, and that's because there's these little bars on the side here, so you can really get it lined up nice and even and clean looking. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to like measure if you're going on the top here. Getting the measurements and making sure it's even and looks good, difficult. I do it from the back side here, and I did the holes just slightly small enough that these actually screw in. So I actually don't even need to add a bolt. I probably will add a bolt to hold it on the back, but they don't even need a bolt to be held in. And then pop this guy out, did the same thing up here, drilled the hole, made it slightly bigger. And I started off by measuring. I just took a little knife and cut the edges of where the cable is on each side, and then just started drilling in and made sure it's all even. So let's do the second one, get the second one mounted. This one's already configured. That's the other thing. I realized I actually have to take this off now. I forgot to put the little rubber stopper back in the back, but you have to configure these before you put them on because the little potentiometer in the back you can't access until it is already, well, you can't access the potentiometer after you mount this here, but it screws right out, so it's not the big of a deal. Anyway, I'm gonna cut to getting this all in. I'll show you the finished one here in 1 second. Okay, we're back. This is what we got. Not too bad, right? Looks pretty good. It's all screwed in. I got these 2 coming out the backside. We'll get those wired into the actual batteries once I get a couple more parts coming today. I need some XT60 to XT90 converters, and I need to go get some bolts for this, but it looks really good. It's all screwed back on. It's gonna be permanent and it fits right on top. And in the space I picked for this on here is right before this bar that comes across. So there's room for those little studs to come down and screw on. So that is what it's going to look like. Not too bad, looking good so far. All right, and since we were waiting for some other parts to show up, why don't I go over the rest of the build out plan? So as you probably already know, the battery in here is a 52 volt battery. That means it actually goes up to like 58 volts down to 45, whatever. So we have that. Now, the electric motor controller in here, the thing that actually, you know, controls, takes in electricity, controls it, puts it out to the motor. This actually says it's rated for 48 volts. So I'm a little confused on this one. It's not uncommon that these motor controllers can take in a wide, you know, range of voltages and then step them down to the voltage that needs to be delivered to the motor. So I'm guessing that's what's happening here, is that they're taking our 52 volt range, stepping it down to the 48 volt motor voltage, and then actually outputting it to the 58 volt motor. Also, and I made a Reddit post about this, the only numbers that are on this thing actually say that it is well, it implies that it is a 48 volt motor. And also it doesn't state how many wattage, but if we're going off of what the manufacturer is saying, it is a 2000 watt motor at 58 volts. Now I'm telling you all of this because we have to figure out how many amps our dual battery discharger needs to be. And I've never really gotten a 100% clear answer on this, so I went a little bit overkill on this guy. So my thinking is, obviously, you know, we have our three correlated numbers. You have your voltage, your amperage. Those two give you your wattage, and if you know two of them, you can figure out what the third is. So depending on a couple of things, I'm not sure if I need to calculate out 2000 watts for a 58 volt battery to find my amperage on that, or because that's going off of the battery voltage and the motor wattage, or do I need to go off of the electric motor controller's 48 volt output to the 2000 watt motor, because those amperage numbers are two different ones. So anyway, couldn't really figure out which was which. I both asked on Reddit and ChatGPT, and I'm not really 100% positive on either of their answers, but if you do the math either way, you're coming up to a little over like 40-ish volts. And just to be on the safe side, I went and I got the 60 amp converter. It's like double the cost of the 40 amp one, but I'd rather not have a fire. So go a little overkill on one that can take up to 60 amps. Should pretty much cover you. That's almost, I mean, it's quite a bit of extra headroom. The other thing is that it should mean that this won't overheat very easily. And the dimensions wise, this guy will fit right in here. The only thing that's going to be a little tricky is all of the extra cables that are going to come with it, because these have XT90 connectors on them and they're pretty freaking bulky. And I'm going to, I've got ordered these little adapters. I'll show you those. They go from the XT90 to the XT60 connector, and inside of those, I'm actually going to take them apart because they're like literally just two of these. It's like one of these and one of these, but an XT60 on this end, manage that. They're just stuck together in the middle. I'm actually going to solder in that in-between middle joint, in between those those converters are connectors for our voltage. And we're going to do that for each one of the batteries. So we'll have two of those. We'll get the converters on there. We'll solder in the actual battery voltage cable in line. That'll mean that it'll be removable too. So it's not like permanently soldered onto any of these things. It's soldered to something that can come off. So that'll make that really nice. Okay, back again. The last of the parts just showed up a minute ago. These little converters to take you from the XT90 to the XT60. So now I've kind of got the whole setup of what's going to go into the bike with our switch here in line. I also have another extension cable to get me down to the lower part of under the bike. So you can connect that, give me like another foot, boom, boom, boom. So really simple. We've got our primary battery is going to go right here, the built-in in the bottom. Then we're going to have our secondary battery, which is going to live down in the basket and a case and everything. That'll be wired into here. We just have to figure out how to wire in this guy, or where to put this guy, not really wire it. And then I've also got the connector here because I had to go to, again, from the XT90 down to the XT60. Now, what I want to do with these guys, these little converters, is they go from a male, female little swap. What I'm going to do is remove the heat shrink here. And I'm going to, that's the point I'm going to solder in for our voltage meters. So that way the voltage meter is in line and it's doing two functions. We're converting the head, but we're also grabbing the voltage going through here. And that also means that it's completely detachable and we can take it apart as needed. So soldered them on. The flat side is the positive side, just as an FYI. I also add some hot glue in between to help make sure that it stays put in there and that it doesn't, you know, come off and arc or something. So just a little extra security there. And then it's looking good. Look at that. We got these guys on the back. That actually should be everything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get this guy mounted in. I'm going to get it mounted to the inner side here, probably with some sticky tape or something just to hold it in place. And then we'll get everything hooked up and see if it works. Okay, connected, and let's see if it blows up. Looks good. You see, come on. All right, zoom in a little. Right there. Turn it on. Do. All right, working. Very nice. So that's gonna be motor 1. Looks good. It's connected well. Let's continue on. We got this guy mounted here, and right now this guy is loose, but it'll bolt back down and we'll get all connected. So I've already got the other end connected there, and then we just need to get our 2 motors hooked up and all of our other little things we're gonna have in between there. Okay, so I think the best spot is gonna be right here. It's on the side that's going to be closest to where I want the cable to come down to go and connect into the battery, and it also sits right in the dip. So it's right here in this empty area in between where the bar drops down. So I think I'm going to drill it out and put it right there. It is close. I don't like how close it is because you could, you know, maybe accidentally hit it, but I don't see a better spot for it realistically. So I guess that's going to have to do. All right, well, I'm gonna go drill and mount this really quick, which shouldn't be too difficult. So I'll be back. Okay, back. Got it mounted in. How do you think? Not bad. I don't like the placement, but it's kind of the only place that I know would be out of the way and wouldn't start bumping into other things. Backside looked like this, so I just screwed it through or drilled it through. Mounted this guy in. I also added some hot glue back here because these little contact relays are actually open, and that'd be a hot open right there, that, well, exposed. So put some hot glue on it just to add it as an insulator. So this guy, let's see here. So this is going to go to motor 2. So this is going to wire right into this dongle right here. Boom. That is wired. That is ready. So we've got our on-off switch. This is going to go down to the battery. There's an extension cable that'll connect right into here, and that'll go down into the bottom battery bag. So that'll be that. And then this guy just plugs right into our motor controllers. We'll have both the motor controllers hooked up, and this is done. Pretty much. I just gotta kind of connect the dots now, connect these back together and button everything up, and then once the battery shows up, I just drop the battery in the bottom. Okay, so I hit my first road bump, but it wasn't a big deal, but you can avoid the issue. So I mounted my switch right here. Well, I already got it on, so you can see it's like fixed, it's fine. But the clip that matches up in this case, it's this back one right here, but on this panel. So this clip, it sticks out quite a bit. I actually cut the head off. I actually cut it enough that it still saved the internal little clip here. But at the same time, I cut it off, it's fine. There's also this screw in right here. So it doesn't, you can't even tell. But when you do, if you do your switch right here, move it in more towards the center. That way you have some extra room to get this all the way in. It was like literally like 5 millimeters too long that I had to clip off the end here. So, okay, here we are, finished product. Can't even tell, we've got the wire down here for when we have the basket ready. It's all connected up and ready. And we've got our 2 gauges up top here looking good. Our on-off switch for the second battery. I'm gonna power on the first battery. I don't have the second battery right now, but let's take a look. You can kind of, it's hard to see. Let's do it again. Shut it down. Okay. Turn it on. Do 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 do. All right, and then when the second battery's in, this guy here will do it. And let's see. Boom. All right. And we are reading our full battery, which is kind of off. This is what I mean by it says you got 4 bars, but you're like closer to like 90%. Yeah, battery. Kind of drives me nuts, but this is great. I can get a much better idea of where what my usage is while I'm driving. So second battery's in here. I'm gonna drive this for at least one day with just this battery, because it's gonna be about 3 or 4 days before the second battery shows up. And then once that's in, I'll show you some of the riding footage, and yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, and we're back a few days later. We finally got the new battery in, a day early too, so isn't that great? Now, that will bring us to the final part of our battery upgrade process. Go into the bottom of the bike here. So let me show you what I got. First off, a couple of things. Okay, so we're going to store the battery in this on the outer. It's a nice hard case. It is a wide, it's meant for the back to go on the back of a normal bike, but this is not what it's for. It's kind of hard, kind of rigid on the outside. That's what I want. And then we've got a fire bag on top of that. So the battery is going to go inside of this bag, to make sure it's extra safe. And on top of that, I just opened this guy up. So this is the battery I went with off of Amazon, and it's got this nice thick foam with it, which I'm going to put on the bottom of the bag as an extra little cushion, because the bottom of the, it bounces up and down. I don't want it just to be on metal. So this will be a little extra cushion on the bottom of the bag. I'll cut it to fit into there. So that's perfect. I was trying to find this anyways. Perfect size already. So battery, 20 amp hour. This is literally the first time I've looked at it. 52 volt, 20 amp hour battery, and comes with the charging cable here. Got a 3-pin metal. And let's see, what is the charge rate? This is at 4 amps. That's a little higher than I want it to be. So that's kind of a fast charge in a way, because the other charger that comes with a bike is only a 2 amp charger. So you're charging at 58 volts at 2 amps, which, will take 5, 6, kind of like 8-ish, 8 to 10 hours to charge, which isn't bad. I mean, it is bad because it takes a while, but the good thing is you preserve your battery a lot longer by doing a normal charge. Fast charge tends to kill the batteries a lot faster. I mean, it's more dangerous and will decrease your battery lifespan. So that's not great. Maybe I can find a replacement that does a slower charge. So yeah, there's that. Let's see what else we got in the box here. I'll set that aside. All right, we got just XT60 connectors, which we will not need, although I'm sure I'll find some use for that. And then the other part of the power cable is right there. Let's get this guy out. This guy's light, really. I kind of expected it to be heavier. It's like, I don't know, 10 pounds, maybe? Maybe less than 10, yeah. That's set. Oh, I might just use this box. It's like perfectly, it's got the edges padded. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so let me spend some time to rig this. Yeah, perfect. A little cushion around the side with the 2 extra bags and the flame protection bag. It's gonna be good. This is gonna be a little bit difficult. I gotta figure out somewhere to put this, wire it somehow. So we're gonna figure that out. Okay, I'm gonna go and figure this out, and then I'll be back with the finished product. Yeah. Okay, final verdict. My initial thing didn't work. I was going to get the foam and then the fire-proof bag, and then into this bag. Yeah, that's too big. So what I had to do, actually looks pretty good. So first off, this top compartment up here, perfect, stores the charger. So this whole kit just goes onto the bottom of the thing. Charger and all is right there. Got the 2 cables coming out of the back. I did get it into the battery bag. What I had to do was kind of hard. So the battery bag is right here. It's all wrapped up. You had to like squeeze the end in because the battery bag is a little bit longer than this actual bag. And below this is a layer of foam, just like this guy here. I didn't have to cut it. I just got the whole thing flattened out. So it's got a nice cushy bottom. So at least on that bounce, when you're going over bumps and stuff, there's some cushion there for the battery. So it's not just like metal on metal sort of deal. And then there's all this extra padding. Like I said, this is still pretty solid setup. My only real concern is how to protect this. I guess I could just tuck it back inside while I'm gone and have this hooked up, pull it out. Also, on the battery, I did check, and this one is UL 2277 or 71, whatever the number is, certified. So I did check that. It is an Amazon battery, so I was a little like, but it seems to be from a reputable manufacturer. I didn't get the cheapest thing on there. I don't know if it's gonna help or not, but it does say that it's, has some safety certifications. So let's see how this guy fits in. That's the other thing, is this comes with little straps. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to use these or not to get it in, so let's find out. Just see if this thing fits. Well, here we are cruising, feels good. I haven't actually hit that switch as many times as I thought I would, so it's not too bad on the placement. So one note on the switch, the original one I got was a 14 gauge, which is kind of small on the wiring. And on top of that, after like the first ride, the switch did not want to turn off. It was stuck in the on position. I kind of whacked it a few times, like forcefully turned it off, and that seemed to get it back into place. But I did buy a replacement with larger gauge wire, 12 gauge this time. So there's that. Now the other thing I noticed is the battery discharge. I'm gonna go and recheck the paperwork on this thing, because the battery discharge is supposed to be even, but it kind of looks like after you apply the throttle a little bit, that it actually lets the two batteries connect to each other, because you can immediately see the voltage balance out, which means that if one has a higher voltage, one has a lower voltage, that means there's some wattage getting dumped into the lower voltage battery until they hit a equilibrium between the two, which is not good. That is a rapid discharge. So I'm going to check what the manufacturer says. Maybe I am doing something incorrectly, but I turn on both the batteries. They have two separate voltage values, and then after you hit the throttle like once to like go, it seems like they immediately start to balance between the two. Now, as long as both are charged the same value, not a problem. But if you have a big voltage discrepancy between the two, you can rapid discharge and ruin, both of the batteries actually, because you're going to rapid discharge from one and then you're going to rapid charge the other one. And that is not good for either of them. It'll greatly kill the lifespan of your battery, if not just outright cause fire if the voltages are too far off. Very dangerous to do. All right, so let's talk about our capacity and distance values. So originally on the OG battery, as is, I do this commute into the office. It's about 17 miles, give or take. And as you can see, the trip is pretty flat. Most of the trip is just like this. I would make it in and I would get to like 1 bar. Well, 1 bar, but as soon as you stop, the second bar would come back. So not bad. I would say that the battery was probably, capacity wise, probably down to like 40%, 30 to 40% left after doing 17 miles of this. Not bad. Not what's advertised. Also, the mileage is still all wonky on this thing. I've tried, I saw on my Reddit post that I made, some people recommended holding the throttle on startup, and that will switch it from kilometers to miles. I mean, it's always said miles in the corner of the reading, but it still seems to be just wildly off. I've tried it and there's no like confirmation, so maybe I did it wrong. I mean, it's not like it beeps and like, oh yeah, I changed something. So none of that. So don't know how to do that. The mileage is crazy off, which brings me back to distance. If you go by what the manufacturer says on the website, that their low end is 33 miles in distance, and I would say that's accurate if they're going by the odometer that's on the bike, which seems to be wildly inaccurate. I'm quite sure they did the testing and they went by whatever the odometer on this thing said, which is either wildly off or they've configured it for kilometers and they've mixed up miles and kilometers when it comes to displaying that information on the website and on the bike itself. It literally says miles. So don't know what to make of that, but real world 17 easy. You could probably push that to 20, I would figure, easily on the standard battery. So now when I get in the office though, I'm between both batteries running and going at a higher speed. That was the other thing. I maintained on the way in a 15 mile per hour speed, so I kept it in first gear. There's a couple of straightaways that I would put it in second gear and ride out second gear, so I'd probably get like 2 miles worth in second gear at that 21 mile hour per speed. But the rest of the time it was in first gear, basically, because the battery was getting a lot lower than I felt comfortable with, because you don't want to get stranded. It's not like there's pedals on this thing. With the new batteries, I have it in second gear the entire time with a couple of straightaways going into third gear. And when I get into the office, I'm like probably at around 70% battery. We'll check it today when I get there again, but easily 70%. The really nice thing is you can tell the exact voltage now of what your actions do and what hills are on. So like right now I'm at 54 volts and that's still 54, saying it's in 70%. This seems low. Let's see if I let off. Let's see where it jumps to. 55. We're jumping up there quite a bit. It's doing quite well. The readout on the screen in front of you is still 4 bars. So it says full 4 bars, and that's just not really actually the case when it comes to the voltage reading. Oh yeah, there you go. Now we're starting to dip into that third one. So not bad overall. Anyway, that's all I got. This is long enough